Josh Allen versus the Lions. I think he has a chance to be the highest scoring player for Week 15. Is Rico Dowdle versus the Panthers. Rico has been really efficient the last 2 weeks. Now he's going up against the Panthers, who allow 100-yard rushers 4 of the last 5 games. Garrett Wilson is second in the league in targets. He has high potential to finish as a top 5 receiver this week versus the Jaguars. The flex play of the week, Khalil Shakir versus the Lions. The Lions secondary has struggled against slot receivers. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Catching a Vibe. I'm your host, Drew, and today we have the round 1 of the fantasy playoffs starts and sits. Hopefully, I can give you the right guys to play and right guys to sit. Please, if you have any questions, players you're concerned about, or players you just want an opinion on, comment down. I'd love to hear from you guys. All right, so now we're going to start off with quarterbacks. And my quarterback start, it's a little cheating, but I'm going to Josh Allen versus the Lions. I know, guys, everyone, their mother is going to start Josh Allen this week, but I think he has a chance to be the highest scoring player for Week 15 of the NFL season. Vegas has this as the highest over-under of the week at 53.5 points. And last week, we saw Josh Allen score 50 points. I mean, he saved a lot of fantasy teams last week. You know, they probably made the playoffs just by him alone. He had 3 passing touchdowns and 3 rushing touchdowns. He's just in his zone. He's in his zone zen right now. Everything's clicking for him and the Bills. The Lions defense has been struggling a little bit lately. You know, injuries have been piling up on them. And they got some new guys that are trying to figure out their spot and their duty for the defense. So I think it's going to contribute to Josh having a big day. This is just an awesome game for football fans. I mean, I'm so excited to watch this game, watch 2 teams that a lot of people are thinking will face off in the Super Bowl. So we might get a Super Bowl preview in Week 15. So, Josh Allen, you have to play him. All right, my quarterback sit is CJ Stroud versus the Dolphins. CJ has just been struggling big time this year. A lot of people thought he would take another step in his young career, another leap. You know, he was playing like an elite quarterback last year, and people thought he'd be in that MVP conversation. He's fallen short of that. He hasn't scored 20 points since Week 4 against Jacksonville. And that's not saying too much because everybody scores 20 points versus Jacksonville. Dolphins defense is pretty good against fantasy quarterbacks. They're third, and teams beat them by being more physical, you know, running the ball down their throats. I love Joe Mixon this week against the Dolphins. I think he'll have a big game. I don't trust CJ Stroud. You know, he hasn't scored 20 points since Week 4. That is horrendous. That's 11 weeks ago. I don't think anybody should put trust into CJ Stroud, especially in the playoffs. Round 1, you don't want to go home because your quarterback only scores 11 points for you. Just, if you do that, you have the biggest sack. If you start him and he plays well, kudos to you. I would not risk it. All right, my running back start is Rico Dowdle versus the Panthers. Rico has been really efficient the last 2 weeks, 200-yard games, and he's getting good volume, guys. He had 22 carries 2 weeks ago and 18 last week. Now he's going up against the Panthers, who allow 100-yard rushers 4 of the last 5 games. Not saying Rico is guaranteed 100 yards rushing, but he's playing a team that can't stop a nosebleed. I mean, my goodness, Saquon, his over-under last week was 118, and he got 124. Like, they set the line so high up, and he still achieved it. That's how bad the Panthers' defense is against the run. Since Cooper Rush took over as quarterback, the offense has been looking a lot better. So they've scored 20 plus in the last 3 weeks, and he has a shot to get over that 14-point projection that he has right now. I think he's a safe play. I think you gotta put him in as a RB2 or even he's a great flex play. You gotta play Rico. All right, my running back sit. I have two guys. It's Najee Harris and James Cook. Najee versus the Eagles and James versus the Lions. Both are playing elite defenses against running backs. They're both in the top 10 in rushing defense. Lions are number 2 against running backs, and the Eagles are number 5. I would feel a little bit better with James Cook just because of the offense he's on. He has so many opportunities to score touchdowns. But he shares a backfield with two other running backs, Ray Davis and Ty Johnson. Both those guys have a role on this team. Ty Johnson comes out mostly catch passes and for third down, and Ray Davis, he'll get a series here and there, and he might get goal line work. So you always got to be nervous about playing James Cook. Because last week he scored 4 points for you. He might have screwed a bunch of teams out there because how bad his performance against the Rams was. I know they jumped out to a big lead and they had to throw the ball to get back in the game, but you can't do that. And the Lions have such a great offense. I'd be nervous about James Cook. Now Najee, he shares the backfield with Jaylen Warren. Warren outsnapped him last week, 52 to 42%. And Warren, he's more of a pass catcher too, so he's stealing catches opportunities from Najee. So those two guys, I'd be nervous about playing, and I wouldn't play them. All right, my receiver start is Garrett Wilson versus the Jaguars. Garrett Wilson is second in the league in targets, 128 on the year. That's about 10 a game he's getting. The Jaguars' secondary is terrible. Number 1 receivers have great days against them. Tyreek, Nico Collins twice, Amon-Ra St. Brown all had over 25 points against them. And the Jets, they just had their best offensive day against the Dolphins. Garrett Wilson and Davante Adams both scored over 17 points. It's in Jacksonville, and older quarterbacks play so much better in warm weather teams. It's going to be 70 in Jacksonville on Sunday. You have to play Garrett Wilson. I mean, he has high potential to finish as a top 5 receiver this week. He's definitely going to smash that 16-point projection. Play him. My receiver sit is DeAndre Hopkins versus the Browns. Denzel Ward is probably going to be matched up against D-Hop since he's the number 1 receiver for the Chiefs. Denzel Ward, he's about the only player that's actually been playing really good for the Browns. I mean, he's a Pro Bowler. DeAndre has been consistent with 13 points. He's averaged in the last 3 weeks. The Browns defense are struggling against slot receivers and deep threats. They give up so many over the top plays, it's crazy. I don't think DeAndre Hopkins is running past anyone on the Browns secondary. So I like Xavier Worthy a lot this week. He could have a deep shot for a touchdown. The Browns defense is actually pretty decent against the run, so the Chiefs are going to have to throw the ball. And I think Xavier Worthy, Juju, those guys are going to have decent days, except for DeAndre Hopkins. He might get a couple catches, maybe 4 for 40 yards, something like that. I don't see him booming this week. All right, my tight end start is David Njoku versus the Chiefs. David Njoku is a ball magnet right now. Jameis is dropping back and looking for Njoku, 85 on the Browns, almost every play, especially in the red zone too. He's 4th in targets for tight ends. And if you take away the Deshaun games, I know you're playing the if game, but I think it's important here. He's number 2 in targets behind Brock Bowers. I think the Chiefs and their defense is going to take away Jerry Jeudy because they've been seeing him run wild lately. Judy's in the top 5 in receiving yards, and he was 3 weeks ago, he was in the top 30. So That's the Browns' best offensive player right now, and that leaves Njoku as the number one. The Chiefs are 31st against tight ends. The way you beat the Chiefs is over the middle, with the tight end. And Njoku is such a mismatch. This guy runs a 4.6 and he's 250 pounds. Now, he has a big question mark with his hands. His hands aren't the greatest, but he's just getting so many opportunities with Jameis Winston. You have to play him. I would be thrilled if I had David Njoku as my tight end with how Jameis is just looking for him every play. Have to play him. All right, guys. Now it's a tight end sit, and this is cursed for me, guys. I mean, I'm picking guys that haven't caught a pass all year, let alone not even sniffed the field. And now when I pick them to sit, they're scoring tutties. They're getting the most yards they've gotten all year. So take this pick with a grain of salt. I'm going my tight end sit is Mike Gesicki versus the Titans. Joe Burrow is just looking for Jamar Chase every play, not looking at anyone else. T. Higgins screwed a lot of parlays and fantasy matchups. He actually won me one matchup last week. Gesicki, the last 3 weeks, is averaging 3 targets. I'm not talking catches, guys. 3 targets. You can't do anything with that. Week 11, he caught 0 passes. There's just so many options in Cincy. Jamar, who's going for that triple crown. T. Higgins and Chase Brown. Chase Brown is running the ball efficient, and he's catching passes too. Burrow isn't looking at his 4th option that much. So that's why I have to sit Mike Gesicki. Hopefully I get back on track with the tight end sits. All right, now the flex play of the week. Khalil Shakir versus the Lions. Josh Allen's number 1 guy. I'm shocked that he's still the number 1 guy. I thought since Amari Cooper got traded to the Bills, he would become the number 1, but Shakir is getting the most targets and most catches. I think he's underrated too, guys. He's only had 2 games of under 10 points, and last week he scored 21. He had 5 catches for 106 yards and a touchdown. The over-under is 53.5, like I mentioned earlier, talking about Josh Allen. They're expecting a lot of scoring in this game, and I think Shakir is going to get a good amount of catches and targets. He has such a safe floor. Now he's going up against the Lions secondary, who has struggled against slot receivers. Look at DJ Moore, had a great game against him. Chris Godwin when he was playing this year. Cooper Kupp, CD Lamb, and Shakir lines up mostly in the slot. So I could definitely see him outperforming his projection this week against the Lions. All right, guys, that's going to wrap up the round 1 of Fantasy Playoffs starts and sits. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please comment down if you have any questions or just want to say what's up. I'll comment back at you. But thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe. Subscribe if you're new here. We'll see you next time. Peace.